Hey, everybody, and welcome back for another deep dive. Curt Robbins actually suggested this one, so thanks, Curt. And it's all about documentation and how its role is evolving in software development.
hmm
So this is something that obviously, we think about a lot
Right.
as technical writers and documentation experts.
For sure.
We're looking at an interview from the Stack Overflow podcast with Fabrizio Ferri-Benedetti,
Okay. Okay.
and he is a documentation engineer over at Tinybird.
hmm
You can find that interview on YouTube. It's called the Stack Overflow podcast. Fabrizio Ferri-Benedetti, technical writer. And just search for the Stack Overflow channel, and you'll find it there.
Gotcha.
One of the most interesting things that Ferri-Benedetti brought up was this idea of documentation as infrastructure.
Yeah.
And, I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting way to think about it because it elevates documentation to kind of the same level as like code.
Exactly.
Because like without the documentation, like you can't really use the product.
Yeah, you can't really use the platform.
It's like an afterthought, which it used to be.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But it's not anymore.
Like if you think about it, like infrastructure is like the foundation of everything.
Right.
So it's really saying that documentation is like the foundation of like understanding and using the software.
Exactly. And we're seeing that even more now in how documentation is created.
Right.
We've moved away from those old help files,
Oh, yeah.
to this idea of docs as code.
Right.
Can you explain what docs as code is all about?
Yeah, so Docs as code is basically treating your documentation like code. So you're using the same tools that developers use. So instead of using like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, you're using things like Markdown and Git.
Okay.
And
What we do for software development.
yeah, and that allows you to do version control
Right.
and keep track of all the changes.
Right.
And it makes it really easy to update the documentation as the product evolves.
So it lives with the code.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not like this separate thing that's off on some server somewhere.
Right.
It's right there with the code.
So it's like a living, breathing document that's part of the project.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that really helps to solve that issue of documentation getting outdated, the minute it's published.
Oh, for sure, because you always know that you're looking at the most up-to-date version
Right.
because it's version controlled.
Yeah.
And you can see how it's changed over time.
And Ferri-Benedetti, he even suggests testing documentation,
Yes.
just like we would test code.
Yes.
What does that look like?
So just like code can have bugs,
Right.
documentation can have errors.
Okay.
So you can use tools to check for things like broken links,
Okay.
inconsistent formatting, outdated code snippets, all that stuff.
So there are tools that are like linters for code that also exist for documentation.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's even like prose linters
Wow.
that can check your writing style.
No way.
Ye-
So it will tell me like, hey, this sentence is awkward or this is...
Too long or
Yeah. That's amazing.
your tone isn't consistent or
Check.
whatever.
Okay. But, even with these great new tools and techniques,
Right.
keeping documentation up to date can still be really hard.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah. What are some ways that we can kind of try to combat that?
Well, Ferri-Benedetti suggests a couple things.
Okay.
For reference documentation, especially like API docs,
Yeah.
you can automate a lot of that.
Okay.
So if you can generate the documentation from the code itself,
Yeah.
then it's guaranteed to be up to date.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Especially for anything that changes really frequently.
Exactly.
But I know we've all had those times where we've gone to look for documentation
Yes.
and it's outdated.
And it's just wrong.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
What can we do about that?
Well, he says that documentation needs to be part of the development process.
Okay.
Like it needs to be baked in.
So not an afterthought.
Yeah. Not an afterthought.
So before a developer can say that they're done
Right.
with a feature,
The documentation has to be updated.
documentation needs to be updated as well.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's really changing the mindset from documentation as this chore
Yes.
to like documentation is part of what makes this project successful.
Yes, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, it's like a key component of success.
Yeah.
And, and this goes beyond just keeping up with the code changes.
Okay.
It's also about capturing the knowledge that people gain from actually using the product in the real world.
Oh, so like those aha moments.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, I finally figured out how to do this.
Exactly. And a lot of times that knowledge gets lost,
Yeah.
in Slack messages or support tickets. Like,
Mhm.
how do we get that into the documentation?
Yeah. How do we do that?
Well, he recommends using tools that can like pull knowledge from all sorts of places.
Okay.
Like Slack and Jira and Confluence,
Mm-hmm.
even like internal forums and stuff like that.
So like a knowledge base.
Yeah, like a knowledge base.
Like a company-wide knowledge base.
Yeah, and he mentioned a specific tool called Guru
Okay.
that does that.
Interesting.
It's like a collective brain
I love that.
for the organization.
Yeah, because it's really hard to keep track of all that information.
Yeah.
So you need like a system
You need a system.
to help you do it.
Exactly.
And of course, we can't have this conversation without talking about AI,
Right.
which is kind of the big thing, everybody's talking about these days.
The elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
for sure.
So, I think there's a lot of fear amongst technical writers
Yeah,
that AI is going to take our jobs.
understandably so.
Yeah. Are robots going to be writing all of our documentation in the future?
Right. Right.
What does Ferri-Benedetti say about that?
Well, he actually has a pretty balanced perspective, I think.
Okay.
He acknowledges that AI can automate certain tasks,
Okay.
like generating basic templates
Fine.
or summarizing information.
But he really emphasizes that human oversight is still crucial
Okay.
for quality and accuracy.
So it's not about AI replacing humans.
Right.
It's about humans using AI.
Yeah, it's like a collaboration,
Okay.
not a competition.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's like it's a tool
Thank
in
you,
our
Hal.
toolbox.
Yep.
That's good. So it sounds like it could help us do our jobs better.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Like by taking care of those like really tedious tasks
Right.
and freeing us up to focus on the more creative and strategic stuff.
So we can really focus on the user experience and the content design.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's great. So
Yeah.
really our role could actually be elevated
Potentially, yes.
by using these AI tools. That's awesome. But let's, before we get too much into the future,
Okay.
let's talk about something that is a challenge,
Okay.
which is proving the value of good documentation.
Yeah. How do we show that it's worth the investment?
Yes, because a lot of times stakeholders see it as a soft cost.
Right. They're like, oh, why are we spending all this money on documentation?
Yes.
But we know it's important.
It is.
How do we measure that impact?
Well, Ferri-Benedetti has this interesting idea that he calls documentation observability.
Documentation observability.
Yeah.
What is that?
So it's basically tracking how people use your documentation,
Oh, okay.
and then you can use that data to actually measure its impact.
Interesting. So we can see like where people are clicking,
Yes.
how long they're spending on certain pages.
Mm-hmm.
Are they actually able to find what they need?
Exactly.
Wow.
And you can see their whole journey through the documentation.
So it's like analytics, but for your documentation.
Exactly. Yeah, like analytics for documentation.
Okay, and this isn't just about tracking user behavior.
Right.
It's about using this data to make the documentation better.
Yes, definitely.
So you can see where people are getting stuck
Mm-hmm.
and what kind of questions they have
Right.
and what information is the most valuable to them.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you can also use that data to actually prove the ROI of your documentation.
Okay. How so?
Well, if you can show that good documentation leads to fewer support tickets
Oh, I see.
or faster resolution times,
Yes.
that's valuable.
Because now you're speaking their language.
Exactly.
It's all about business value.
Yeah.
So you can say, hey, if we invest in documentation, we're going to save money.
Exactly.
That's great. But even with the best documentation,
Right.
you can't always guarantee that people are going to use it.
That's true.
Right.
Like we've all seen it. Developers, they go to Slack.
Yeah.
They go to Stack Overflow.
They Google it.
They Google it.
Yeah.
Even if the perfect documentation exists.
Why is that?
I think there's this perception that documentation is boring
Okay.
or dry
Yeah.
or that it's not going to be up to date.
Right.
You know?
So how do we get developers to actually use the documentation that we create?
Well, Ferri-Benedetti says you have to frame it as a solution to a problem that they care about. So instead of just saying, go read the docs,
Yeah.
you have to say something like, do you want to speed up your deployments?
Okay.
Check out the docs.
Okay.
Are you tired of debugging that same error?
The docs have the answer.
The docs have the answer.
Okay, so really it's about selling it.
Yeah.
They're selling the
They're
value
showing the values.
of the documentation.
Exactly.
Okay, and once they see that value,
Right.
hopefully they'll come back for more.
Hopefully they'll trust it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they'll see it as a valuable resource.
Exactly.
Okay, this is great. I'm already learning so much.
Me too.
This is really interesting.
Yeah.
So we've talked about docs as code, documentation, observability,
Mm-hmm.
the role of AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is that good documentation is no longer a nice to have.
Right.
It is a must have.
It's essential.
It's part of the infrastructure of software development.
It is the foundation.
Yeah. And it requires the same kind of rigor and attention to detail as any other part of the development process. We need to embrace this docs as code mindset,
Yeah.
using tools like Markdown and Git
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that our documentation is versioned, testable,
Yeah.
and integrated with the code base.
Right.
And we need to be proactive about keeping it up to date,
Yes.
making it part of the definition of done
Exactly.
for any new feature or update.
It's not an afterthought.
And it's all part of it.
It's part of the process.
This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this with me.
You're welcome.
I feel like I'm already rethinking my whole approach to documentation.
Yeah, me too. It's really interesting to think about it in these new ways.
Yeah, it's definitely a shifting landscape,
For sure.
and we need to be constantly learning and adapting to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. You know, it's interesting to think about how these ideas kind of translate into real-world experiences.
Yeah.
Have you ever come across, like, documentation that really impressed you? You know, something that went above and beyond just, like, the basic information.
Yeah, I was working with a new API a while back,
Okay.
and the documentation was not only accurate,
Mm-hmm.
but it was actually enjoyable to read.
Wow.
They used clear examples, visuals, and they even like injected a little bit of humor into it.
Nice.
It really made the whole learning process so much easier.
Yeah, I think it makes such a difference when you can tell that the people who wrote the documentation
Yes.
actually care about the user experience.
Yeah, you feel like, okay, these people get me.
Right.
They understand that I'm trying to learn this new thing,
They want to help.
and they want to make it as easy as possible for me.
Exactly.
It builds trust,
It does.
you know?
Yeah.
So how can we apply these principles to our own work?
Okay, so one key thing is to involve technical writers earlier in the development process.
Right.
Like, we need to be at the table
From the beginning.
from the very beginning. It's like involved in design discussions.
So not just brought in at the last minute.
No.
To document everything.
We need to be there from day one.
Okay, so we can be proactive
Exactly.
about shaping the documentation.
Yeah, and that way we can make sure that the documentation strategy is aligned with the product goals.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And of course, we need to be using the right tools.
Yes, definitely.
We talked about Markdown and Git,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so much other cool stuff out there.
Oh, yeah.
AI-powered writing assistants,
Mm-hmm.
interactive tutorials,
Mm-hmm.
documentation platforms that can help us create these more dynamic and user-friendly experiences.
It's a really exciting time to be in the documentation space. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much innovation happening.
But, no matter what tools we're using,
Right.
what are those core principles of good documentation?
Well, first and foremost, it has to be accurate.
Okay.
People need to be able to trust that the information is correct
Yes,
and up to date.
because there's nothing worse than
Oh, I know.
following instructions and they're just wrong.
And you've wasted like an hour.
Yes, and you're like, ugh.
And you're so frustrated.
Yes, and you're just like, why?
Exactly.
Okay, so it's got to be accurate.
Yep. And it's got to be clear and concise.
Okay.
Like, people should not have to wade through pages of jargon
Right.
to find what they need.
We've got to use plain language,
Plain language.
break down complex topics,
Yep.
make sure everything is really easy to follow.
And don't forget about visuals.
Oh, yes, visuals are so important.
So helpful.
Especially for explaining complex processes.
Especially for visual learners.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of accessibility,
Right.
we need to make sure that our documentation is usable by everybody,
Yes, absolutely.
regardless of their abilities.
So that means using clear language,
Mm-hmm.
providing alternative text for images,
Okay.
making sure the documentation is compatible with screen readers.
Okay, so we're thinking about everyone when we're creating this documentation.
Everyone.
Okay. But creating and maintaining all of this
Right.
can be a lot of work,
It is a lot of work.
especially when we're trying to,
Juggling deadlines.
meet deadlines.
Yeah.
All the competing priorities.
Right. It's easy to lose sight of the big picture
Yeah.
when you're just in the weeds every day.
And it all comes back to that idea of documentation as infrastructure.
Yes.
It's recognizing that essential role
It's a foundation.
that documentation plays
Mhm.
in supporting the entire software ecosystem.
Yeah, it's not just a nice to have. It's a must have.
And it's about recognizing the value and the expertise
Mm-hmm.
that technical writers bring to the table.
Absolutely.
We're not just wordsmiths.
Right.
We are architects of understanding. And remember, good documentation is a journey, not a destination.
Not a destination.
So keep learning, keep sharing, and keep creating amazing documentation
Yes.
that empowers and inspires.
Happy documenting.
Happy documenting, everyone.